What if the modern promise of freedom isn't about working less, but about working all the time? We're sold a dream, a seductive narrative whispered from YouTube ads and polished TikTok videos. It's the gospel of the side hustle. The idea that with just a little extra effort, a clever use of our spare time, we can unlock a new level of financial security, pay off our debts, and maybe, just maybe, become our own boss. This new landscape is often called the gig economy, a term that paints a picture of freedom and flexibility. It is the idea that you can stitch together an income from a series of small jobs, delivering food, writing articles, selling crafts online, all on your own terms. But what if this promise is a mirage? What if the path to financial freedom is actually paved with burnout, anxiety, and a hidden cost we're not meant to calculate? I decided to walk that path. I dove headfirst into 7 different side hustles, chasing that promise. In this video, we're going to dissect the brutal reality I found. We're going to deconstruct the myth of hustle culture, not just by looking at the numbers, but by examining the psychological price it demands. Because I learned that the most important thing I lost wasn't money. It was something far more valuable. The prevailing wisdom is that a side hustle is a smart, empowering choice. It's a sign of ambition, a proactive step towards taking control of your financial destiny. We've all seen the stories. The college student paying off loans by driving for Uber. The stay-at-home parent building an Etsy empire from their kitchen table, the 9-to-5er who finds fulfillment and a fat paycheck by coding in the evenings. These stories are the bedrock of the myth. They create a powerful image of accessible success. But there's a fundamental flaw in this picture. It's the invisible work. For every dollar earned, there's a shadow ledger of uncounted hours. The time spent setting up profiles, optimizing listings, communicating with clients, filing quarterly taxes, and maintaining equipment. The hours spent sitting in a parking lot, waiting for a delivery order that pays $3. If these hustles were so efficient, why did it feel like I was constantly working, yet my bank account barely noticed? This was the first crack in the foundation. A nagging question that wouldn't go away. What if the real product being sold here wasn't my service, but my own time, offered up at a steep discount? To understand what's happening, we need to look at this through the lens of a simple economic concept, the law of diminishing returns. In short, it's the idea that after a certain point, the more effort you put into something, the smaller the reward you get back. My first experiment was the most passive of them all, online surveys. The promise was alluring: get paid for your opinion from the comfort of your own couch. The first few surveys were great. $1 for 5 minutes, $2 for 10. The returns were immediate. But then, the system's true nature revealed itself. I'd spend 15 minutes answering pre-screening questions, only to be told I wasn't a match. No pay. The surveys that I did qualify for became longer, more intrusive, and paid less. An hour of my focused attention for 75 cents. The effort I was putting in was increasing, while the reward was plummeting towards zero. It became clear that I was caught in a trap designed to maximize my input for minimal payout. What feels like a simple transaction is actually a carefully engineered system of data extraction. The jarring realization hit me. The goal of these platforms isn't to reward you for your time. It's to harvest as much data as possible for the lowest conceivable cost. You aren't the partner, you are the resource being mined. But that was a passive hustle. To really test the dream of freedom and flexibility, I had to hit the road. I signed up for a food delivery app. If everything we've said is true, then this is where the myth should be at its most powerful. Here, you're not just clicking boxes. You are your own boss, the captain of your own ship, navigating the city on your own schedule. The first few delivery pings felt like a shot of adrenaline, a sense of control. But that feeling quickly faded, replaced by the cold, hard math of reality. There was the cost of gas, the slow, silent depreciation of my car, the unpaid time spent waiting for orders. One rainy Tuesday night, I was out for 3 hours. I completed 5 deliveries and made $22. After factoring in the cost of gas and the wear on my vehicle, my net profit was less than $10. That's a little over $3 an hour. The freedom was an illusion, because I wasn't my own boss. A faceless algorithm was. It dictated where I went, how much I earned, and kept me chasing hotspots in a gamified loop of desperation. The promise of flexibility had been completely shattered by the reality of economic necessity. If it's not truly about freedom, and the pay is demonstrably awful, then what is the real appeal? To answer that, we have to look past the money and at the psychological promise being sold. The truth is, these hustles tap into a deep-seated human need for agency. In a world where many feel trapped by stagnant wages and insurmountable debt, the side hustle offers a feeling of control. It's the feeling that you are doing something about your situation. You're not just passively accepting your fate, you're fighting back, one delivery, one survey, one gig at a time. It's a powerful, intoxicating feeling. This modern gold rush has a striking parallel to the California gold rush of the 1840s. Thousands of people rushed west, fueled by stories of incredible wealth found just by digging in the dirt. A few struck it rich, and their legendary success became the marketing that fueled the dreams of hundreds of thousands more. But the vast majority of prospectors found little to no gold. They ended up broke, having spent their life savings just to get there. The people who consistently got rich weren't the ones digging for gold. They were the ones selling the shovels, the pickaxes, and the pans. Today, the platforms, the Ubers, the DoorDashes, the Fivers, are the ones selling the shovels. They've convinced us the gold is just beneath the surface, all while they build their empires on our collective hope and uncompensated labor. To fully grasp this, we have to look at the most dangerous hustle of all, the one that asks for your soul. But I know what you're thinking. Those were low-skill gigs. What about monetizing a real talent? What about the ultimate promise of the creator economy, getting paid to do what you love? This feels like the one pure, undeniable good in the hustle ecosystem. So I tried it. I offered my skills as a freelance writer on several popular platforms. This, I thought, would be different. This was my passion. But I quickly discovered that these platforms operate as a global auction house, where everyone is in a race to the bottom. I was competing with thousands of other writers from around the world, many of whom could afford to charge a fraction of what I needed to make a living. The invisible work here was even more insidious. Hours were lost crafting proposals that went ignored. Time was wasted in back-and-forth negotiations for jobs that paid $50 for a day's work. The passion I once had for writing began to feel like a burden. It became a source of anxiety, tainted by the constant pressure to devalue it just to land a gig. The final brutal lesson settled in. Even your greatest virtue, when fed into the relentless machine of the gig economy, is treated as just another commodity to be bought and sold at the lowest possible price. Their system didn't just exploit my time, it began to poison the very thing I did for love. My greatest strength had become my greatest vulnerability. So we have the surveys that mined my personal data for pennies. We have the delivery apps that drained my car and my spirit for less than minimum wage. And we have the freelance platforms that took my passion and forced me to sell it at a discount. Each one, in its own way, upheld a single, unified thesis. They promise empowerment, but they are architected for exploitation. The final breaking point for me wasn't a spreadsheet or a financial calculation. It was a quiet moment, sitting in my car after a particularly bad delivery, the smell of lukewarm tacos filling the air. I had just driven 12 miles round trip for a profit of $4, and in that moment, the entire charade collapsed. I wasn't a savvy entrepreneur. I was a casualty of a system that is brilliant at convincing people to undervalue themselves. Now that we understand the brutal mechanics of this machine, the final question becomes the most important one. Is this the new normal? Is the hustle the only game left to play? The answer to that question changes everything.